Oops. Um, okay, so everyone, good morning. Um, Glad you're here, and I hope I didn't scare a bunch of you. Ah, there we go. Oh, Shelby, how'd that happen? Um, so what I'd like to do this morning is talk a little bit more about how to make a form. You know how to make this thing, and so I first want to see the experiments that you guys individually did. You should have brought some folded up things here for us to take a look at this morning. I am not expecting to see any finished kind of uh, package. I'm not expecting to see anything like that. I'm just simply calling them forms, and that's the way I hope you think of them. And I hope that we can see some aspects within whatever you have that, oh, I kind of like this. How can I do this? If you have questions like that, or I'm trying to do this, couldn't figure out how to make it happen. I had got something done, but I don't know how to make it completely closed all the way around. Anything like that would be good questions, I think. And then we look at it. We try to figure it out. Um, and then the two other parts that are important after that are, okay, now that we've played around with form, how do we connect it to content? So in all the arts, whatever we're making, if we're doing a painting, if we're doing graphic design, a sculpture, it does not matter. We're always working with form and content. But here I'm using the word form in a much broader sense. I'm saying, and now I'm using the word form to just say this is the thing. Whether that thing again is two-dimensional, a painting, or three-dimensional as a sculpture or a piece of ceramics, jewelry, I'm now using the word form in this broad sense. It's the thing. When we are talking about um, things, art things that are three-dimensional, then we use the word form in a slightly different way that is more specific. Then we're saying form as distinguished from shape. So shape is two-dimensional, height and width. Form, and not in this more specific sense, is height, width, and depth. So we get 3D. Um, and of course, 4D, we would have that plus time. Uh, you know, uh, um, but we're not going there right now. So I need to say that because invariably when I'm talking with you, I will use the word form. And in this case, right now, I'm referring to form as it relates to content. So that means that I'm using the word form in the broad sense, the thing. So the thing and content could possibly also equate to meaning or purpose. Okay, so we could say the thing on the one hand looks this way. It has this color, it is this size, it is this shape, it is made of this material, um, those kind of things. That's the thingness, the thingness. Okay, and then the content side again is, well, what's the purpose, or what's the content, or what is the story, or in this assignment, it's what's the concept. Okay, so we want to marry the form and the content together so that they are compatible, certainly, but they are reinforcing one another. And that is especially true in this assignment because that's what we're concentrating on, is that marriage. But I'm also telling you that the stronger that the stronger that marriage, or the stronger that connection, or the stronger that they relate to one another on every art project or design thing that you make, the stronger that connection is, will result in a more effective or better piece in the end. The opposite would be what I don't have a strong connection between the form and content. And then I end up with pure decoration. So I end up with something that really, it might look pretty, but it really doesn't have much meaning to it. It's just pretty, and then there are times I that, I guess that that's fine. Personally, myself, I don't really like decoration. That's my personal opinion. Personally, I much prefer things that have a connection between the meaning, the purpose, and why it looks the way it looks. But that's my personal opinion. And so I need to tell you that, um, because I do know that there are times when just pure decoration is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But we do need to know the difference. That's the important point here. We do need to know the difference. And so on this assignment, again, we are emphasizing and trying to make a very, very strong connection between form and content. Okay, so I want to pause here. Um, has anybody, well, I could say, does anybody have any questions? But a better thing would be, have you talked about this in any other class, or have you heard anything like this before? Does it sound different or similar to anything you've heard in another class?
I think we talked about this in graphic design too. The idea of like
We did, because
form
it was,
becoming,
yeah, we did,
yeah,
because it
that's the
was
whole
neat.
idea.
Yeah. So how does it again? But I am talking about it a little more in depth here, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how to compare the two. Well, like I guess I don't want to call them analogies, but like descriptions, I guess, because they're of the same thing but in a different way.
Yeah. So does it make sense?
It does. I just don't know how to like put it into words and say it back to you.
Okay, well, that's great for you to tell me that, because honestly, one of my goals is that you do reach a point where it's understandable enough that you can put it in your own words. That
Mhm.
that is a goal of mine, right? I want you to know that. Um, and so, but the first step is to do exactly what you just did, Jess, is to say back to me something, because what that does is it helps me to know where you guys are at, because I don't want to go on and on at a level that, well, you already get it, or that, no, I don't get it, and I don't want to go further at it, more in depth, if we so that's from me. So I'm telling you that so you know where I'm coming from. So when I'm
Right.
asking you, yeah, yeah. So thank you. Somebody else, have you heard anything like this before? Form and content, those words, or did you understand them in a similar or different way because of how you heard it in the past, or is this the first time you've ever heard it?
D is it, like, the same thing as, like, form function? Like, form content? Like, I haven't heard that before in specific, but I have heard, something around that.
Okay, so yeah, and part of this is because, of course, every teacher will slightly phrase it differently. I'm pretty sure of that one. And so sometimes as students, we can that can be confusing. And I think it's a safe bet that any version from any other teacher that if they use the words form and content, or said form/content, or let's see how else might they say it. They might not use the word form and content, but they might use meaning, or storytelling is pretty popular now. Saying storytelling, calling everything a story. I do it myself. Um, so I would say storytelling, meaning, any of that, any of those kind of words would be synonymous with content. Okay, the purpose, even purpose would be a good one there too. And then form, that's the one that I think probably causes the more confusion, because it can be used in these two distinct ways. So again, one is a very general, broad way where we say form, it's the form. And like we're doing a painting and we talk about, and somebody might be talking about the form of the painting. Well, technically speaking, that's incorrect. Because if we were talking specifically, if we're talking very, very generally and broadly, no, it's fine. But a painting is two-dimensional. So if we're talking about the, we shouldn't say, I'm painting a tree on a two-dimensional surface as a painting. Technically speaking, I should be saying the shape of the tree, because it doesn't have depth. It's on a two-dimensional surface. I'm creating an illusion perhaps of depth with shading and all that, but it's not, it's shape. Okay, but we occasionally use the word form to say the form of the tree or the form of the person, because we're speaking very, very broadly. It's kind of, I think this analogy might work. I'll try it. So I think we've probably all heard the phrase that all squares are rectangles, but all rectangles are not squares, right? We've all heard that phrase. So the term rectangle is a broader term that can include a more specific kind of rectangle, which is even on each side, a square. So it's kind of like that here. So if we were talking broadly and using the word form, then it's a broad term. But technically speaking, we want to be more specific. And so we might say, if we're talking about working two-dimensionally, we would say shape. The thing has a shape. If we're making a three-dimensional thing, the thing has form, because it has height, width, and depth. So I think of the two words, form and content. I believe that content, we can use other words synonymously and not get thrown off track. I think the word form is the one that sometimes can do the confusion part. So as it relates to what we're doing right now, I'm bringing it up because we are trying to make a connection between form and content. So when I say that, I am using the word form in a broad sense. I'm saying that we want to have the look of the thing be of a particular look, because that helps to interpret or communicate the content. The content on this assignment is concept, right? Your concept, whatever you've picked to interpret. On the other hand, today and last time to a certain degree, but today and in between, you guys have started to play around with paper, folding it and making a three-dimensional thing. You are making a form. You're not making a two-dimensional shape. And ultimately why it's important to have this distinction and understand that distinction is because when we start to put graphics on a form, we want to, it's a mind game. You have to think that, okay, how does it look when I see it from the side, or from the back of it, or from the top of it looking down, or if I can pick it up underneath it? Okay, I can't just think of that form and only seeing it from this view, because it has sides and top and back and angles of it and all that stuff. And so you have to be able, as a designer, you have to think, well, what's it going to look from those other angles as well as this angle? Okay. Now the other a way that might help us on there is that when we look at, and in this sense, it's like a sculpture. So a good sculpture doesn't have a front. There's no one side that's more important than the other. So think about that a minute. Well, what if it's a sculpture of a person? Isn't there a front then? The answer is no. There's a front to the person, but the person looks interesting from all sides, right? We as people, if we only looked, I don't know, if we were made so that we only were however we are made was only paid attention to the front of our face and the front of our body, when we turn sideways, it'd be like, what? Just a line? And the back is just a silhouette? Well, no, that isn't true, right? So when we turn to the different sides, there's something going on there as well as looking at the person's face. So now we say there's the front of the person and so forth, like that. But in terms of a form, a human form, no, it's interesting all around. Your hand, it's all around. It's interesting. The bottom of your foot, the top of your head, under your chin. It's all that stuff. Ears, oh my God, ears of all sorts of little things there, right? They're little sculptures in themselves. So I hope that's not too confusing. But the idea here is that, oh yeah, it's a human being is an interesting form from all angles. Okay. When I do a sculpture of a human being, I should therefore be trying to make that sculpture interesting from all angles as well. We're not doing a sculpture necessarily. We're not doing necessarily a form of a person even. But we are doing a form, a three-dimensional form that needs to be interesting from all sides. So that's the ultimate reason why we're talking about this word form as it applies to a three-dimensional object. Okay, so I want to come back now and have you, I need to hear from you a little bit more. So does any of this sound familiar, or is it brand new, or is it confusing? Does it make sense? What do you think?
Um, yeah, no, this definitely rings some bells. I don't know. I just kind of thought of that what we mentioned a while back. What was it? Form follows function, or no? Was that it?
That's the phrase. Yeah, good, very good.
Yeah, so that's what it reminded me of, more or less, like the whole concept of function as well, kind of like a unanimous in a way, even though that they're like kind of um, what's the word? Separate ideas, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're separate but connected.
Yeah, no, but it's ringing some bells, and that's for sure.
Good. So this form follows function, that phrase, many people have heard that phrase that aren't even artists, but they don't necessarily know what it means. As artists and designers, we need to know what it means. And but we many times don't. And so the form follows function idea is a little deeper dive than than what I've been talking about so far this morning, but it's absolutely connected. Absolutely. So that's good that you remembered that phrase. Yes. Someone else? Brianna, what does it sound like to you?
When I hear it, it just reminds me of what Allison brought up with the form follows function. It is, I think, new to me, but I was able to follow it clearly, so that was a good thing.
Boy, that's an excellent way to give me feedback. That was perfect. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
No problem.
perfect. Perfect. Jazzy, how about you?
It's like Brianna said, it's kind of new to me too. But I think I get what you're talking about.
Okay.
It makes sense. It's easy to follow along. Um,
Good.
I don't
Also,
really
this
know
also,
any.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't really know anything else I can tell you.
Okay, well, that's good as well. Thank you. Alyssa, I mean, sorry.
I joined late because I was having trouble with my Wi-Fi, but um yeah, it's not new to me. I know like what you were talking about.
Well, you and I have talked about it a little bit more perhaps than everyone else in the class. So yeah, I knew that you had joined late. So I'm glad you were able to get on here. Um, so yeah. So I think I think you've heard this from me a little bit more often. So and perhaps from other people as well. So I think we're all right. Um, all right. So let's see. I haven't totally thought this through how to get from there to the next thing. So um, I guess what I want to say is that that idea, the thinking, the thinking behind what is form and what is content should always be important to you, no matter what you're making. Okay, the thinking. You should know in your head, well, what is my goal here in terms of the look of the thing I'm making? In other words, what am I making? Am I making a painting? Am I making a sculpture? And then the next step would be, well, am I making an oil painting or watercolor painting, or am I making a sculpture out of wood or plastic or paper? And then the next steps after that. So what colors are they going to be? What texture, perhaps, how big, how small, um, those kind of things. All of those decisions that I just mentioned there relate to the form, what the thing's going to look like as just an object. Now, the other side of it is, what do I want to say with it? What do I want its meaning to be? What do I want people to, if they see it, what do I want them to walk away knowing? Um, what story do I want to tell? Or what's my inspiration for it? All of those kind of things relate to what the content of the piece is about. Okay. Um, and so, again, if I'm thinking about those two big areas whenever I'm making an art or design piece, that's important. Okay. So now, with that in mind, on this assignment, we have been talking primarily up until last time about the content side, haven't we? We've been talking about interpreting a concept, characterizing a concept, and then trying to translate those characteristics into some kind of visual representation, meaning how am I going to represent it with color? What are the best colors for this concept? What perhaps are some shapes that best symbolize this concept? We haven't really gone into choosing typefaces yet, but that would be a next thing. We also haven't really gone into talking about what kind of pictures or graphics we might create to symbolize it, but that would also be a second next thing that relate to concept. Okay. That interpretation of concept. Now, to bring it all together into, and what am I going to put it on? What's it going to be a part of? Well, we're not making a painting. We're not making a piece of jewelry. We're not making a ceramic piece. We're making this kind of sculpture, kind of package thing. It's kind of in between. It's kind of like a sculpture that has openings or closing parts to it. So that's why we say package. But then it's also, so it's someplace in between sculpture and package, isn't it? It's a three-dimensional form. And so and so now we're at the stage we're kind of concentrating on how to make a form And then what we're working towards is how can we make the form have shape and that represents the concept that we're after. So we're working towards interpreting the concept by how we fold and how we what size perhaps, and you know, making those decisions about how to make the form because of the concept, not just simply in the end I'm going to make an interesting sculpture. Okay, that would be totally form, and actually it would be decoration. It'd be just, well, it's a cool looking thing. What is it about? Oh, I don't know, I just made it. That would be decoration. We are trying to make a meaningful form. Okay, meaningful, maybe that's the key word that I've been searching for. Okay, so we want it to have meaning. All right, so just like we did with concept, we kind of only talked about how to interpret the concept through visual individual things, only on that first. Now we are isolating just form, and then then the third thing would be trying to bring them together, and that's what I hope at the end of today we'll be starting in that side of things. So for right now, then, what I'd like to do is if you guys could share with the rest of us some of the things that you did between Monday and Tuesday and today, with manipulating paper, trying some different things. And again, I'm not necessarily expecting to see finished pieces. I just want to get a sense of what did you try, what perhaps worked, what didn't work, what were you trying to do with the paper and that kind of thing. Okay. So can somebody share theirs so we can take a look?
I can do mine first.
Great.
So I have like 3 screenshots on my phone of like I was looking up like origami like boxes and things like that. So I have like 3 like other ideas because these ones are kind of ugly. But doing this, I like almost made like a hat, like a sealer's hat, and
Yeah.
I really like the way when I was envisioning doing it, I wanted to open like a pocketbook, like a purse.
Oh, cool.
So like it could be pointy on the top because
Yes.
this base like still has like the bottom, like, oh, like I said, like a purse. So I had this one where you could like open it up like that, and then I have this one that's also a triangle, and I wanted to put these guys up like the, I don't know, so that it would be just like a like straight triangle. This one I want to open up. If I showed you the YouTube video, you'd be like, oh wow. I want it to open up like this. I want it to
I understand. Yeah, got it. Oops.
like,
Are we losing you? There. Okay. I thought you froze there for a minute.
maybe, probably.
So maybe repeat that last part.
For this one, I don't know exactly how I want like the bottom piece to be. I was looking at like more of like hexagon shapes, like hexagon-y shapes, so that I could still like have a base and still have like some like angles like on the side, so it didn't just look like a straight box. And I wanted to open like this, like that.
So and that closure there, does it kind of fit inside the other one?
Yeah, I could totally do that. Like that's how I had it originally. I had it like tucked in.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
So
that particular technique of that is a good one. It's a nice. I think it does come from origami, but I'm a little unsure of that, of where it originated. But it's a really nice one where one side of the paper folds back on itself and makes a little envelope almost.
Mm-hmm.
The other side just fits into it.
Yeah. So that's what I did here, and then it like slides in. Either I could do that, or like the ones that I was looking on, they have like I think they're thumb taps or like little like metal indents type of thing, and then they have a string so that they could just like wrap it around to like have it as like a finisher or like as a tie. So this
Mhm.
one like has a few different like options.
Yeah, very nice. I like all three possible directions. So let's see. I think I will start it with you and each of you individually. So what are some questions or difficulties that you ran into with each of them?
Something that I found like manipulating and actually like doing the paper. I didn't think that making not a square was going to be so difficult. Like originally, like when we were just talking about it and I didn't touch it tangibly, I didn't think that it was going to be like that hard to make like a stable structure. And it doesn't have to be stable, but like something that could like sit on its own without flopping over.
Mhm.
It was really difficult to do that without like a square. And even though I like incorporated like the triangle and like the pieces there, like if you look, like the bottom is still a rectangle. And that is the biggest difficulty that I was having with this one that like goes in, is that when I want to have it this way, when I was trying to do it the hexagon way, the folds kind of just like straightened out, so it just end up looking like a triangle, or it would end up looking like a square. So I think that is like one of my biggest like problems.
Okay. One of the things that you may have heard this term. Did you take geometry?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember the term or looking at geometric solids? Okay, that rings a bell. Relook at that.
Okay.
So you will see structures they'll be laid out flat of a geometric solid. You know, anything from a square, triangle, hexagon, right? And you'll see it laid out flat where those parts, if they came together, they would make a solid.
Yeah.
So this is reminded me of another word that's interchangeable with form. So a solid. So in geometry, that it's going from a two-dimensional plan folded up into the geometric solid. And if you just look that up on the internet, or if you happen to still have your geometry book or something, I'm pretty sure that might help you in turn, especially if you wanted a multi-sided solid form in the end. But where do the other pieces come from is the issue. And then and then the only thing that's missing on most of those diagrams of geometric solids are tabs. So it'll fold up, but
Like get together.
there's nothing to glue or fold over in the plan that you see. So you just simply have to add on some thin pieces of paper, and not thin, but you know, the tabs, so that when it does come together, you can either have a slit that it goes into, or you glue it. Okay. So
Okay.
that's my suggestion there on that particular issue. Is there a different kind of thing that you also ran into?
I think that was my biggest thing, and it's also, once I made a fold, it was hard to go back from the fold. So like visualizing it, I could see what I wanted to do in my head, but I had to go look up online, like how you said, the sprawled, like laid out version where it's not folded. And I tried to like mimic and match that, especially with the purse opening one. But yeah, it was hard. It was much harder than I thought it was going to be, for sure.
You're going to do fine. What you've shown me here are three different mock-up rough ideas of the goals that you're trying to have. That's perfect. That's exactly what I hope to see today. So then we look at, and then the next step is, okay, well, how do I make it come together and stay together? And I think this geometric solid is one direction, but another is what you said, is just looking, Googling them and all that, and then continuing to just play around with the paper and see, folding it flat, and where do I need another side here? Where can I get that from? you
Mhm.
know, and fold and keep folding it up to, oh, that's where it can come from. It can fold back over that way. And you know, and so it's a little bit of a puzzle, but I think that you're in a good spot. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, solid.
Great. Thanks. Solid. Yeah. Form. Thanks for starting us. Can someone else share what they did?
I can go.
Okay.
Let me. This is always. I don't know why I struggle every time when I'm about to share my screen. I just space out. Okay. I didn't really mess around with anything physical yet because like I was trying to dig up all my old art supplies and I can't find them right now, but I'm gonna try and test it out on like some cardboard once I get the chance. But I did mess around with Illustrator's 3D form and found that was actually quite fun and a little bit helpful because it has its like own little sides and everything that it highlights on the way of when you're like creating an object. So, but it was definitely interesting to mess around with. Like I started with this shape without the pattern because I didn't realize that you needed to put a pattern onto the design at first. Well, it was this shape, but without like the it wasn't necessarily the borders of the chest. It was just the shape. And it ended up becoming, you can tell it ended up becoming, once I did the 3D stuff, I made the extrude depth just super long, so it's really cool. It's super cool because you just make it as long as possible.
Right.
So if I really wanted a long chest, I could, but
yeah.
No, it definitely helps because I can get a good idea of just like, oh, how long do I really want it in? Like another thing was I noticed was like, okay, you can for you for the symbols and stuff, the symbols tab, you use it here where you're like, hey, I'm gonna put it, it'll highlight the different sides of the shape, and it'll and it's actually kind of cool because it shows you over here.
Yeah.
And so yeah, help me get a virtual idea because I kind of worked that way first, even rather than like in front of me.
Okay. So this is absolutely a good step as well. No question about it. And I'm really happy to see that you're playing around with another tool here that we briefly looked at in class. So that's great. And it looks like you're getting a nice understanding of how that works as a way to mock up what something might look like three-dimensionally. So all that's really good. I do want to encourage you though that now the step that we really should now do is working with actual material. Okay, see if that's something that you should do next. Even if there's some more things that you want to do here, and you might come back to doing here. And the reason is that as we start to work with real material out here in the physical world, that's going to trigger some other kinds of thinking in our brain. It's just the way our brain works. And our brain will be inspired by some things that right now aren't even involved, you know, because it doesn't have to be involved yet. But when you start playing around with actual paper, or you said cardboard, which, you know, I'm a little unsure about that one, but at any rate, you will have to do little mini problem solving along the way, working with actual material, just like you had to do little mini problem solving along the way to use this three-dimensional revolve tool. And along that way, you will understand the form in a more complete way. And and that's what we're at, and that is an example of no, it's not. It's just a way to understand it more completely. Therefore, the potential of getting an even better solution is possible. Okay, so, and then the last thing I want to say on that is, because I need to talk about this, is that in the end, since we don't all have access to the printer, I think you're probably all thinking, well, how are we going to turn this all in? I thought that, I thought at the beginning you said that we could do prototypes, or some of us can do, 3D renderings or stuff. And now it sounds like we're not doing that. And I need to say that, well, I do want us to all manipulate with actual paper because of this way our brain works, because it will help us to have a greater understanding of the whole thing as a form, an actual physical form that may lead to us doing something different here on the computer that otherwise we might not have thought about. Okay, even if the final version is not going to be an actual 3D thing. Does that make sense why I'm saying that?
Yes,
Okay.
it does. Like, I do have a question though. So, like,
Sure.
in the very end,
Mhm.
what you expect from us for like what we turn in, would it be a combination of whatever designs that we've brewed up on Illustrator also, but like maybe what we've been able to mock up, or maybe give like a brief visual between like physically, like what
Yes.
so it's a mixture of that.
Yes. That is actually more like what real presentations are. They explain or show or demonstrate the what it is you're proposing as a designer in as many ways as you possibly can. So that might mean, let's say that I'm your client and you are going to present to me this package sculpture concept thing. And so you might show me a 3D rendering that's come out of here, but then you might also show me something that you've made out of paper. You might also show me some photographs of similar objects or textures or surfaces or something like that. So what you're trying to do is tell the story of your proposal in as many ways as you can to be comprehensive in that storytelling, not through just one means. So that is very much a part of, geez, 90% of all presentations that designers do now. And it's really interesting. I talked about some of this the other day in one of the classes about how what I believe is going to continue after COVID is under control, and we no longer have to do Zoom stuff, but what will we retain that we've learned from having to use it? And I'm pretty darn sure that in terms of presentations or working as a professional in many areas, not just design, but certainly with design, that there will be a lot more of collaborative or stages in the process that involve some aspects of, let's say, Zoom or video conferencing. So how to get your thoughts, ideas, inspirations across to other people, whether it's a client or other people you're working with, is going to require us to be able to do that in many ways, and not just one. So, and maybe an analogy here would be, I'm sure you've run into the issue of, at times you've had, let's say, email or message conversations with somebody else, and you thought you were being perfectly clear about something, and all of a sudden you realize the person or people at the other end had a completely different understanding of what you were saying, right? Because it was email, or because it was uh, text messaging only. And so, and that if you were in person, you could explain yourself better, right? Because when you're in person, you might be talking with your hands. You might have brought something along to show them. You're also using your words. You can see their response, and then adjust. And no, oh, sorry, no, that's not what I mean. I meant this. You know, you can know, you do that right there in person. Well, if we're not going to be in person as much in the future, for many different reasons, not just, and you know, again, and not necessarily because of COVID, but maybe for other reasons. But I think that the ability to communicate through this Zoom or some version of visual conferencing is going to be an additional thing to emails and text messaging and phone calls at stages in the process till we get to a point where, okay, now we need an actual meeting in person. So all of that has to do with multiple ways of, I guess, presenting. And so on this project, yes, we are going to, your final version that you turn in is going to include more than just one thing. And it will vary from person to person depending upon what you have access to at home and that. But your goal for everyone is going to be, how can you best show your concept package? Does that help a little bit there?
Yes, it does. It's still, it's weird at a class like this. It's just like, well, personally, because I just like, I'm getting used to the art classes, and also just like the fact that we're all online now. So, but yeah, no, it's definitely a process, an interesting one too.
Yeah. So I guess the other thing I'm trying to do is not turn this not into like a negative. Oh, we have to do it through Zoom, and that restricts us. We can't do. And sometimes I find myself saying, oh, you know, like if we were in person, we'd be able to do this. Well, we're not in person, so we can't. You know, that makes us, that's negative. Well, instead, we should be looking at it, well, this is the way that we are together, and it allows you to be in another country, and the rest of us to be in our homes. And so, well, that's kind of nice. That's kind of cool. And so, and that means that we will all have individual things that are nobody else has. So how can we make use of that? Well, this now possibly gives us an opportunity to do that. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm trying to find ways that we can do that. Yeah. Anyway, that's getting a little off track, but.
Oh yeah, no. But in the case of like, hey, I'm home now. I can make use of my high school art stuff that I left behind when I left. So,
well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still looking for it, but.
Okay, so on your project, that I think this is great to see what you've done and explored the 3D Revolve tool and everything more in Illustrator. That's good. That you're showing me that you understand how to map symbols and how to control the surfaces that they are on. What I want you to now do is get I mean, you don't even have to have a whole bunch of art materials to do what I'm asking right at this stage. What I'm asking right now is you probably need some kind of paper, maybe a ruler, pencil, scissors, X-Acto knife. I think that's probably all you need to be playing around with seeing what you can, how you can interpret your idea with physical material.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Thanks, though, Allison. Next. Do I have to pick on somebody?
Like Allison, I don't have like physical forms yet because I haven't had the chance to play around with paper, but I have like screenshots of like sketches of ideas.
Okay, tell you what. Now I'm going to interrupt you, Allison. Why am I calling you Allison today? Weird. Alyssa, I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt you. Okay, because I have the sense that you are not alone in that the rest of you haven't manipulated with paper like I asked you to do. So what I want us to do is right now, I do want you to all, we're going to take a little bit longer break. Let's see, I'm going to call it that we are at 10 o'clock right now. And Allison, I'm not sure what time that is for you, but we're on the hour. I want us to, yeah, I want us to come back in half an hour. Okay. And, so Jessica, you holding out on me. All right. So I'm going to interrupt my thought here. Jessica, can you show us what you have?
Yeah, sorry. I'm not sure if this is, I don't know. Like I've thought it through and I've kind of like figured out how I want it to open, I guess.
Okay.
But I don't know if this is something that I could actually make. So it's really basic, but like I have my paper and what I wanted it, let me just do this. What I wanted it to be is like rolled up sort of, but like fatter than this. And so
Okay.
there'd be like a tab here, or it could be like the magnet and it'd be like a thin material that you could like roll open.
Okay.
And then it's like opens up like a book right here.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So this would be like a box maybe, and I don't know how that would go, but the thought I guess behind it is my concept is like dreams. And I was
Mhm.
thinking like a storybook, like I think of that can be like dreamlike sometimes, or like when you go into reading, like you could be in like it's I don't know, that resonates with dreams to me, but then I also struggle with that whole idea of like, well, that's what it means to me, but like it like this a storybook could also mean like, oh, you're opening an adventure, or oh, this is like a love story, so it can mean a lot of things.
Mhm.
And I guess like the actual like design I do on the package, because I wanted to stay away from like the stereotypical, we talked about like the clouds and that stuff, but I could still maybe incorporate that on like the design of the outside of it.
Mhm.
But I kind of wanted something to like roll open and then open, because I just think it's like unique and different and not typical, and dreams are like all over the place, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. Great. Why were you holding back? This is good.
I didn't know if that like if this is what you were like. I just feel like it didn't really look that good. I have it all in my head. It's really good. I just am struggling to put it out there.
This is a perfect example of what I was trying to describe earlier, that it just makes our brain work a little bit differently, doesn't it? When you're actually trying to realize it with material, as opposed to a drawing, a sketch, something on the computer version of it. It just, our brain works differently. There's parts of it that they don't have to be engaged until you're actually playing with the paper. Even if you had a drawing of a rolled out piece of paper, and then another drawing that showed that, well, after I roll it out, it's the parts to a box or something. There are parts of your brain that just simply don't have to do anything yet. But when you now take a piece of paper and try to fold that, now all of a sudden those things have to wake up, and the ones that were engaged earlier, now they get a rest. That part of your brain rests a little bit. But before they go to rest, they send some information to the parts of your brain that are going to help you fold up the paper. But that's all they can tell you. That part of your brain doesn't have all of the info. That isn't the expert part that works with the actual paper. Now it's going to that office.
It is like very different working with it like manually, I guess, because like you said, it's kind of like a puzzle. Like you're like, if it opens like this, then or what happens if I do it like this? And I just couldn't do that on a computer, and I didn't even know how to like lay that out. I needed to do it with my hands first, but I still, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I'm struggling a little bit with that whole.
You probably Yeah, you probably feel like you're struggling a little bit now. What would I do? How to make this happen? Yeah, I get that. But honestly, you're exactly where I hoped you'd be.
Okay.
You are. Um, so I think we all get this idea of the different parts of the brain. So I'm not going to keep going on and on with that. What I do want to say though is, what do I want to say here? I want to repeat the idea that, no, I haven't said this yet. You said rolling it out. You described the action of how the user would open this package. So, and I haven't talked about this part yet with anybody. So
That's another thing I wanted to ask you about was I don't remember if we talked about this. Sorry to interrupt, but it came to me. Like the experience of opening the package and how
Yes.
that can relate to like the word too is something I've been thinking a lot about as well.
It's
Yeah.
UX design.
Mhm.
It's UX design. It's user experience, right? It's what is the experience of the user in opening your package? You know, does it feel, when they pick it up, does it feel delicate? Like I don't want to break it? Does it feel heavy? Does it feel like it could float away? Am I opening because I'm unrolling it? Is it difficult to open it? Is it hard to find the opening? Is it a mystery where the opening is? Is there more than one opening? You know, all of those, the experience of opening this thing, since it's a package, it has to have an opening. Is it going to be a little opening? I can only peer into it, or what is it? What is that experience? Yes, absolutely. That is something we should all consider here as a means of interpreting your concept. Yes. So specifically with yours, Jess. So if we described it as unrolling or rolling it out, or what's another way we can say it? Think of as many different ways as you can describe the experience of opening as you visualize it. What do you think that will be? And then as you go to the prototypes with the paper, you're starting to you yourself physically experience that. What is that? And parts of it you're maybe liking or surprised by, maybe, oh, I didn't know it was going to do that, or no, I don't want it to do that. I want it to be something different. So as you start to get that information, you start to learn those things about the experience. That will influence some things like what material you make it out of. You said whether it has a magnet that closes it or not. It will influence some of those decisions because of the experience. So it's not just the color and type and imagery now, it's the action, it's the feeling. In fact, ultimately it all is about the feeling, right? The feeling of your concept, the understanding of the concept. So absolutely, that's an extremely important part here. I'm glad you were thinking of it and you wanted to know if that was a part of what you should be thinking about. Yes, 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 yes. Great. So now the next steps with the other thing I guess I can talk a little bit about here for all of us is we are making right now first drafts. They're kind of like thumbnails. They're very, very rough just to start manipulating material with just any kind of any paper that you have around. It could be notebook paper. It could be paper you pulled out of your printer at home if you have a printer. It could be newspaper. It could be whatever, right? As you start to work out some of those first issues of where the fold should be and where tabs might be and that kind of thing, then you're going to need to move more towards the kind of material that you think would be best suited to the experience. So in general, in very, very general broad terms, I believe that after the first explorations that you do with whatever paper you have lying around, I think the next version that is quite helpful is to use a kind of paper that's a little stiffer. In most cases, I believe this to be true. So in general description, we might call it cardstock, um, or but don't use corrugated cardboard right away. It might work in some case. In fact, on yours, corrugated cardboard might work. Have you seen corrugated cardboard that comes rolled up? It actually comes in different colors and all that.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so and it rolls up in one direction only. The other way it won't roll,
Mhm.
right? Because of
Yeah.
the corrugation. Okay, so so yours might be an exception to what I was about to say, in that normally speaking, corrugated cardboard is not a good choice for us because it's really hard to fold and make angles and things. It can be done, but it's a different thing because it's a sandwich. It's got two pieces of paper on the outside of the sandwich, and then it's got zigzaggy paper that's glued in the inside of that sandwich. And because it has one specific direction, it's like wood. It has a grain that will. So wood, it's easier to cut with the grain than across it. Just like paper, it's easier to fold one of the directions than the other because of the grain of paper, all paper. With corrugated cardboard, it is absolutely easier to fold one direction than the other, or roll in one direction than the other. Now, the other material that is common for students to try working with is foam core. And foam core can be used, but there's a very, very specific way that you would want to cut it to make folds. And I need to demonstrate that for you, and I will. But that kind of material works the best for things that are going to be like a geometric solid. I was talking about that earlier here today. The problem with it is that it's really hard to configure into two different things. You can fold it up and make a solid thing, but usually you have to glue it to have it hold together, and so then to reconfigure it becomes really hard. I'm not going to say it can't be done, but I do think it's very specific. It's kind of like the corrugated cardboard. It's very specific to making one kind of form, but not really easy to use in making a variety of different kinds of forms. So back to what I think you should use. I think that for all of you, after the initial experiments with just regular old any kind of paper, I think to make one that's a little more substantial and give you a better idea of what's going to happen, I would suggest using a stiffer paper like cardstock, maybe like if you have like note cards that you use to do notes to do a speech or something. If you have the big ones, if that's big enough for you to do it. Unfortunately, most of those aren't large enough to do it, but that's the stiffness or the weight of paper I'm referring to. You might be able to, if you have like a box like that, like a dress or a blouse or something came in, that usually they're white boxes, and they're normally flat, and in the store they make the box out of them, and the two halves fit together. That kind of lightweight paperboard is also like a card stock, and it's usually they're bigger pieces that you could use to maybe work with. Let's see if I can think of any other source. Oh, sure. If it's like a sketchbook, the back cover of larger sketchbooks, if it's the lighter weight, it's typically a brown color. If it's lighter weight that you can fold, that can work. The thicker back board of like a sketchbook or something is too thick. You won't be able to fold it, it'll crack. But the lighter weight ones will. And it's possible that the front cover of a sketchbook could work. It'll have printing on it, but and be in color, but to make a mock-up, it still could work for you. And you theoretically could get you'd have a large enough sheet to work with. And then the last thing perhaps that you might have is if you have, again, from a sketchbook, the drawing paper that's in a sketchbook, if it's a larger sketchbook, it needs to be big enough so that you can actually make the thing. What's always surprising to me is how much paper you need to make something in the end that's maybe only that big. And you'll just have to experiment with that to figure it out. Okay. Okay. Does anybody else have a three-dimensional model thing out of paper that they made that they could share with the rest of us?
I do.
Okay, Brianna, very good. Let's take a look. You guys are full of surprises this morning.
So it's not really like something I have in mind now what I want to do because I have like other. It's not really a package, but I have an idea of what
Okay.
to do. But it's like a.
Wow. That's pretty cool. So now, is that several pieces of paper that you made things and then glued together? Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I also chose like different color papers because when I think of my word, I think of many different colors put together. So I think it's kind of hard to tell, but they're just different colors. But it's not what I have in mind now, but it's something that I made 3D-ish.
It's a very cool form. There's no question about that one. What did you make them? What is it? What kind of paper did you use here? What is that?
It's technically origami paper. I had it
Is
from
it?
last semester from one of my classes, so I used it up.
Yeah. Did you get from the 2D design class? Did you use some origami
Yeah.
paper in there? Yeah. Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, let's see here. Keep holding that up. And what's your concept?
I now thought of, because what I have, it's clear, like it's a clear sphere with something inside of it. So I now thought I could, it's hard to explain right now, but it's like, it's clear and then I'll have a flower inside of it, which would be white, and then all the color splats on the outside. So every view that you see from it, the flower will be like a color, like colored and not just the white, if you can imagine it.
So there's a flower inside this that we get little peeks of through these various holes, right?
Mhm.
Okay. That isn't a concept yet. So what's the concept?
I'm thinking of more like just being colorful, but I'm not really sure on the concept yet. I did have like pictures, but I don't think it's not like, it just shows what the word means, like the pictures that I got found.
Like the Pinterest mood board kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, Brianna, thank you for sharing this one. This gives me a chance to talk about yet another possible direction for all of you. And that is, okay, we started with trying to picking a concept and then trying to characterize and define it. And then, we've gone that direction, right? Well, another possible direction on this assignment is to create a form and then try to decide on a concept that form represents. So I'm going to let that happen here. I think that's still legit. So what you want to do is think of, well, what does this thing that you made, how does it make you feel? Not what does it look like or what you want inside yet necessarily or anything like that, but from what you have right now, how does it make you feel? So does it make you feel happy? Does it make you feel scared? Does it have mystery? Does it seem, what is it? So feelings, okay? And then from those feelings, try to, and it's probably not going to be just one feeling. It's probably going to be a mix of several different things. There's parts of it that make me feel this, there's parts of it that make me feel that. Okay. And then you could also so you should write those down. You'll get a short list of feelings. Then you can also look at it and do a different kind of thing. Like, what does it look like? Does it remind you of anything? Does it look like something? Does it look like a flower? Does it look like a star? Does it look, the crystal, for example? So make that little list of what it looks or reminds you of, what it looks like or what it reminds you of. Another thing you could do is looking at it and decide. What's another way we could look at this? The goal, what I'm trying to suggest here are different ways of looking at the form and what you think it means. Okay, what would somebody else think it means? You could even ask different people. You could ask your family, what do you think this is? What does it mean to you? And so you're going to get a little list there as well. So from all of these little lists, I think it should be able to help you zero in on some kind of concept. So whatever that concept might be, okay? I'm just gonna, I don't know if this works at all. I'm just gonna throw something out. I'm gonna say, this is about the universe. Okay, so my concept is the universe. And so, yeah, I'm just gonna stick with that. So it's the universe. And so, okay, so now that I've done that, I am going to enhance some of the qualities that I already identified that kind of makes me think of things that relate to the universe. So I'm going to enhance those qualities, and I'm going to perhaps change some other things that they don't seem to be saying anything about the universe. So I'm going to change those or minimize those things. And maybe what's inside of it is a flower, but maybe what's inside it is something else if it's the universe. And of course, you don't have to use the universe. I'm just using that as an example right now. Does this make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so basically we're approaching this connection between form and content now from on way we're talking form first. We're starting with a form. And now we're trying to figure out what the content or what the meaning would be to go with it. The way we started as a class, we started with content first and then trying to see what form will go with it. It kind of doesn't matter which you start with. I have to say that it's more common that we would start with content first and then try to interpret. That is certainly more common. As a graphic designer, you would get a client that would ask you to create something for them. And you would ask them, well, what do you want it to be about? And they would tell you what it's about. And then you would create something that represents that. So that's what I mean by normally you would start with content and then interpret it. On the other hand, there are times when you start with a form and then, figure out what content it could be best matched with. And I think that's what you should do here. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks for showing us that. That's great. Oh, maybe I do have one question. So it was unclear to me how you might change it to something else, right? Or, how that occurs. Um, it is also made out of multiple pieces of paper, which you've put together to make one form, but each of those individual, I'm going to call it a facet, is folded up in multiple ways. So we're perfectly okay with all of that. I think the question for me is more about then once you've discovered what the message is, what the content is, then you need to be thinking about, well, how does an opening or yeah, we'll say an opening um, work? Where is that? Is it a little door thing, or does the whole thing come apart, or are those holes that are there already, or are those the openings? And any of that could be possible, but it does need to be able to transform to something else. So maybe that's the big question. Okay. And I think everybody's probably in that boat. Okay. Um, Anybody else have some paper things we can look at? Grace, thanks for coming. Do you have for being able to get here? What do you have?
Yes. So I made a box and I couldn't make it big
That's fine.
because the one paper could only fold
Yeah.
so much. So this is what I have,
Mhm.
and it opens like this.
Okay.
So this has kind of like I wanted this to be a very like snug fit.
Yeah.
So there's 4 corners here that are kind of cut in, but these are kind of left out. And then on this side, there's 4 corners that basically indent so that when they close, it stops where they meet.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's that's what I have. I do After making this, I do have some modifications I want to make this like bigger from one sheet of paper. So this was made from one sheet and this was made from one sheet of paper. But yes, my idea was the kind of box within a box within a box. So I think this would be like maybe the smallest box,
Mhm.
and then I would just want to make it bigger from here. I am a bit unhappy though with the very obvious line you can see. I wanted it to be like a very slick look,
Mhm.
but I found that a bit difficult. Maybe it's the precise measurements that I was missing. I tried to be as precise as I could, but yes, this is what I have. Um,
Okay. Well, um, I understand, and from seeing past things that you've made, that your standard for craftsmanship is very high, and I absolutely keep it high. Keep raising it. That's excellent. I have to say that for this first rough idea version of it, it's actually more than it needs to be at this stage. Well, I'm not sure that that's true, because you have to do that to be able to see. Um, since you, I would say this, your design, one of the things that is going to help convey the concept will be the precision, right? So the level of precision being impressive is going to be important in your overall concept working. Okay. Now I think craftsmanship is always important on everybody's, but it's also true that when we minimalize or eliminate other things, then what we are left with takes on greater importance. That's an absolute truth for the idea of minimalist design. Okay, and we see that in everything. Minimalist modern architecture. What's we don't have a bunch of Victorian decoration stuff on it. So what's left, perhaps a straight wall, needs to be absolutely perfectly straight, or we will notice something that's off, right? So it doesn't mean that there's less detail. It means that the detail that is there takes on greater importance. So that's, I think, going to apply to your concept here. So I'm saying that because I started out saying I thought that that your version of this first one for this first stage that you're showing us might be more than it needed to be, but I'm backtracking on that now because I think you do need to do, even starting from the first version, be working on how can I make it as precise as possible so that I learn from that as I go to the next one, and finally the final one. You'll learn a little bit each time. And so I appreciate that. I think that that's going to be cool. I like now, on the other hand, really like the creative way that you did those corners. And so this is a really nice example. Early on today, I was talking a little bit about the relationship between form and function, and we didn't talk about that phrase of form follows function, but we did bring it up. But here's a really good example of form following function. So you said that the purpose, one of the purposes of the way that you want this box to fit together is really snug. So you wanted it to not just sit on there and maybe wiggle around a little bit or whatever. It's on there. And so to do that, you had to figure out a way in the form to make that happen. So those little corners, the way that you change those corners around, it looks that way because of the function it needs to do. So that form, it looks the way it does because of the function of making it more precise and snug, tight. Really, really nice um, solution to that, and form follows function. Yeah. So um, um, I think that you had like two questions, I think. One was about this line that you were unhappy with and that and how to eliminate that. I believe that stuff is naturally going to happen for you as you move forward with the next version because you've learned from this version what creates something you don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you will naturally start to do that. On the other hand, there might be a slightly different way to do it to eliminate that line or something. Maybe the fold that side comes from a different piece of paper, or the line ends up not in the middle, but it ends up on an edge, which is kind of the more common way to hide an edge or hide a line like that, is to have it not occur in the middle of a face, but have it occur on a corner or an edge. That's a very common way. The other way to think of it though is let's not hide it, let's enhance it. So instead of hiding it, we actually it has another purpose. It's there because it has another little thing. It's a little handle. You know, it has another little flap on it that comes. It's now a handle, or something. You know, or maybe it has a different purpose as a little window into. I don't know, but I guess my point here is that when we have something that we don't necessarily like the way it's looking at the moment, we can go one of two different directions. We can either execute it with better craftsmanship, exactly what I did in the first place, therefore it will be hidden more. Or I guess it's three ways. I can do that. So better craftsmanship on the same thing because I've learned now something by doing it the first time. The second version would be, will I move where that thing occurs so that, again, I'm hiding it so it's less noticeable. But the more radical approach to it is, in fact, well, instead of hiding it, let's enhance it. Let's let it be seen, but it's going to be seen because it now has a purpose. It's just not where it ended up. Okay, so you might think about those options. And I'm struggling to remember what your other question was. What was your other question?
Uh,
About how to make it bigger, or how to, or
oh yeah. Because this box in itself took almost like a I think it's 8 by 11.
yeah.
And so I think I have another way to maximize the paper space without having it be so small. Because my worry is that if this almost takes up one piece of paper for this size, and I want the box to ideally be like maybe this big.
Yeah, so how much paper you're going to need for that?
Yeah, I thought so. I have to like put pieces of paper together, but then there'd be a line, and I don't like that.
Right.
Then I thought maybe do I make that and do I wrap it with another like wrapping paper or something? Or yeah, that
Yeah.
was
Good. Okay, because so I don't remember if we talked a little bit about this before you were able to join or not, but I want to repeat it. And that is, my earlier comment was just that it's surprising how much paper it takes to end up making something that's rather small. It's always surprising to everyone, I believe. So what you just said is a good illustration of that. Um, were you on when I started talking about some of the different paper choices?
I think so. You mentioned like cardstock, regular paper,
Yeah. So that,
front of a sketchbook.
okay, so that would be the one option. Although it looks like the weight of paper that you were using there created something that was fairly sturdy.
This is multimedia sketchbook paper.
Okay,
So
so
it's a
it is a little heavier weight. Okay, yeah. So I think that that's a good idea. But you are going to need larger pieces to start with, for sure. So, um, I can't remember where you are right now. You're over in East Bay someplace.
Tracy.
You're in. Oh no, you're in Tracy. I've said that's before to you too. I'm sorry. You're in Tracy. Yes. So you do need larger pieces of paper. Well, one thing is possibly looking online to see if you can order some. I haven't said that to everybody yet, but you certainly can. That is an option for the final version. You might. I would always suggest, in fact, taping together multiple smaller sheets to work through the prototypes to before you get that final version, you know, and then once, okay, I see where the folds are going to be. I understand I need to be paying attention to increments of 1/64 rather than just 1/8, that kind of thing. And so I've got it worked out, the shape of the thing. And so now I go to the single larger piece of paper. And you're probably going to still be limited though. I would start with finding out what's the largest piece of paper that you can get, and then what is the size of the cube that you will end up getting when you use that largest piece. So that's going to determine what the largest box is. And then everything will get smaller from there. You might end up with your smallest box then being this little guy, which could be fine, I think. But it does depend on how it communicates your concept. Um, but I think I'm thinking that maybe the best. No, there's one other option. Sorry. And that is, instead of looking at single sheets of paper, looking at rolled paper. So if it's a roll of paper, um, and the width is what is going to determine size now of that roll. But usually, I think the box has a longer dimension, or what, a longer side, where most of the more sides come out of that than the other. It's not equal. So a rolled piece of paper might work for you here better. Yeah, it's just a matter of finding that paper. You might find it online. You might even find it at well, I think an art store, yeah, but you might find it at even something like Target.
I
Or
think I was also, I just thought of maybe like poster paper, because
they
those come like really big and they're a bit sturdier than regular paper.
they do. The problem is folding it. It usually cracks. You can experiment with it for sure,
Mm.
but even though it's thin enough to fold, usually where it folds, it's poster paper is also a little skinny sandwich, and so I'm assuming it'd be white poster paper that then when it folds over, that white thin sheet of paper, usually there's a crack along the line, but you can try
Gotcha.
it. You should try it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is similar to that paper I was trying to describe before that might come in a like a box that you like get a blouse or a dress or something in, like a shirt board is what it's called, and or even sometimes that's inside a nice shirt or blouse, to keep the folds nice when you just first buy it, and then you buy it and you've got that piece of paperboard that's inside. So usually the poster board is similar to that, and they normally crack when you fold. But again, experiment, see. Okay. All right. Thank you. Um, all right. I keep asking and keep getting surprised myself. So I'm going to ask one more time. Does anybody else have any three-dimensional thing to show?
Yeah, I have some.
Yes. Great. Okay. Let's see, Jazzy.
Um, so first I have this one. Um, I started it out just trying to get like make like little pockets.
Yes.
Um, so I can like get used to doing that. And that's what I also have this one for. Um, with like little pockets in here.
I like it. Yeah.
And then with my last one, um I just tried practicing making like little like wisps coming off the main like shape.
Hmm.
And then yeah.
This is great. So those also look very origami inspired to me. Is that true or not necessarily?
Yeah.
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 I just folded the papers.
Yeah. This I'm impressed again. Um, and one of the reasons that I ask you guys to share these is so that you can all see that each of you have completely different approaches to this, right? You've all generated completely different kinds of forms, even at this very beginning stage. It's really cool. Cool. Um, they are all more than legitimate. They are creative. They're along the lines of what you should be doing at this stage. It's good. You need to hear that because there was some hesitation here at the beginning of you guys showing what you had, and I'm interpreting that as you were all a little bit unsure if you did what you were supposed to do. So you need to hear from me that yes, you all did what you were supposed to do, even though they are all different. That's great. So you're playing with form in different ways, and you're each finding out some different things and possibilities because of that. So Jazzy, with yours, I would say that one of the things that's kind of cool about it is it because of those I think you call them wisps, that they're almost wing-like, those
Think so?
plane, yeah, on that one in particular, that kind of go out there, and they um, they still surround space, but not solidly. They suggest interior space, but there's an open wall kind of thing. Like it goes into that space, but we can come back out. It's not captured solidly within all, you know, the sides all and closed up. It has a a light and airy and free kind of feeling because of that. Um, does that make sense what I'm trying to describe? Yeah. So I don't know if you were aware of that when you started, or if you were, and that was your intention. Wow, that's even more impressive. I would more often I would say that for most people it would be, well, I started playing around with the paper and I got this cool thing, and now we look at it and see what does it suggest. And so that's kind of so this is the first time I've seen it. I look at it, I say, and I get that feeling. I get this feeling of lightness, airiness, free kind of thing. Um, uh, uh, that's some, you know, from that little look at it. And so you do the same, and you can turn it around and see it from the different angles and that. And what you want to do is do the similar thing that I just did. What is my feelings with this? And if those feelings are compatible with your concept, then you're absolutely on the right track. So you have to remind me, what is your concept?
Warmth.
Warmth. Okay. So what we want to do, and I don't know, my just reaction may not be the same ones that you had, but if it were mine and I said, okay, my concept is warmth, and I got this cool thing, but my overwhelming feelings about it are that it's light and airy and free, then I have to ask myself, do those things go along with the overall concept of warmth? And I might say, well, yeah, but I don't know if those are the main characteristics of warmth. So then you have a choice here on this assignment. It's kind of like what I was saying a little bit earlier there, that you act with Brianna's, is that you can change your concept if you want because of the form, or you can continue to modify and try different forms because you want to stay with warmth. Okay, you can do either one here. And because our ultimate goal is to match as strongly as we possibly can the form and the characteristics of that form with the characteristics of the main concept. Okay, so I like the concept of warm. I also really like the objects you showed me. From seeing them just briefly here, I'm unsure how they match up strongly. You have to determine that one, but you can see what the goal is, right? We want that match to be as strong as possible. And now you can either change concepts if you want to make that happen, or modify the form further to make that happen, one or the other. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, good job. Like them. Did you have any, I didn't ask you this, you kind of didn't say, are there any questions you have about going from here or with what you have?
I don't think so. When I made them, I just made it to try and like practice like what I might do. It's not like concrete or anything, or like what I'm trying to make for my actual like box. It was just
Okay,
kind of like examples and like practice.
good. Okay. Again, what should happen at this stage? It's kind of playing around. Um, you know, you have some direction in your head, but not concrete, or not. I have to do this. Yeah, it's playing around with the form again because we're engaging a different part of our brain. So that it's great. Good to see. Thanks for sharing that. I'm sure it gives everybody else other things to think about as well. Let's see. Did I don't think I missed anybody, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, now I'm feeling a whole lot better. Good ideas, you guys. Let's see, it's 10:45. Yeah, let's take a break though, because I do want to demonstrate a couple little maybe closure techniques or things like that into paper form, and that some you might find that you can apply to the forms you guys are working with, or it may give you some other ideas of how you might. So if you want, let's take like it's 10:45. Let's do like a 20-minute break. So at 5 after 11, let's come back. And when you come back, if you could have some paper, scissors, ruler, and an X-Acto knife or something. If you don't have, hopefully you all have an X-Acto knife at home, but if you don't, scissors are fine. Okay. And maybe some other surface to cut on, that we might need that. Okay. And just any old kind of paper, whatever you're using to do your models, I think will be fine. And then we'll come back at 5 after 11. Okay. All right. See you in a few.
Can't get it out my mind. Out my Close the door, turn the light on, switch your mind off, make it right for me. Pull the blind down, try to wind down, take the liberty, and then you'll see.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little late here returning. Do I have everybody? Thank you. Okay. So what I'd like to do is have us each at least look at and maybe practice or try one of these things out. And so I'm going to share my screen and to show you what we're looking at, and then you'll also be able to look at the same thing on your computer. But let me go there. So I'm on the assignment page, and I just added two little things towards the before the other examples that were on there, but after it says concept examples and above the pictures that were there, I added these two pictures of what is an example of a locking tab, and then this little plan here that is the most basic version of a box plan that you can modify to make any other box, and then of course adding other sides. What I'm going to do is add, I didn't have time to make them right now, and it actually took me a little bit longer than I anticipated to make just these, but I'm going to add on there hopefully sometime this evening some other ones that show how you can expand to more than a 6-sided box. So at any rate, the dashed lines indicate fold lines, the solid lines indicate cut lines, and then this little tab at the top, when everything folds around, fits into this little slot that occurs on a fold at the opposite end. So, and then the one that I want us to try and make is right now is this little locking tab idea. So I put the two images on here to show it, but now I'm going to stop sharing for the moment and hold up this box. So what I took the picture of is this, and it normally would, you know, I guess we could say have one tab at one end that comes around and tucks in. And we talked about that kind of tab on a number of the other boxes that we took apart last time. The addition to this is there's this other little piece that comes up and fits into that slot and essentially locks the lid in, so the lock doesn't, or the lid does not open. It is a way of creating a closure other than glue. So even if this wasn't an opening that you wanted to open, but if you wanted to close a top without gluing it, this is a way to do it. And we just simply wouldn't, we would do two things differently. We would not put a finger hole here to make it easy to put your finger in and slide out the lock like that. And the lock, instead of it being where can I hold this like this? So this one happens to be rounded at the top corners to make it easy to go in and out. Well, the difference would be if we want to actually be permanently have it in there, we would not round it off. We would actually angle these. We would angle these out on this side and out on that side, so that once that it is in the slot, it would be difficult to pull it out. Okay, so all right, so that's the purpose of it and what it looks like. So where does the paper come from to make that is the idea. So this top part is the same thing we're used to. It's you know, it has the ears here that are angled in slightly to make this come down and fit in that groove. So that's normal. This part is the part that isn't. So if we look at this side here, if we don't talk about the part that's cut out right now, it's kind of like a short version of this flap. It's a short flap right here, right? The difference is that it cuts in or down onto this side further so that part folds out. Okay, so it has a folds that folds out down here across the bottom. The sides cut down into the main side of the box, and then the little flap up here is what goes into a slot that's exactly on the fold of the main tab. So what I want us to do right now is just make this locking tab thing. Okay, and we're not going to make the whole box now. What we're going to do is just take one sheet of paper and make essentially the lid. So we're going to have we're going to make it easy here. We're going to make a square with a flap on it. Okay, so let's, whatever size square you make, then we want to make that an even number. So like, let's say it's a 3-inch square or a 4-inch square or something like that. So if we could all do that first, make a square, have a flap on it, and cut that out. Okay. Once you've done that, then you're going to take a second piece of paper and again, make the same size square with another flap on it up here, but it's a short flap. And again, make the width of, the width of that flap, make it an even number. So if I've got a 4-inch square, let's make like this a 2-inch smaller flap. Okay. And so then cut out those 2 pieces of paper. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to do it with you so that I can discover what I've forgotten to tell you, and we'll go from there. Okay, so let's take a minute or two and go ahead and make those 2 squares, each that have a flap on them. One flap goes the length of the square. The other one is a shorter one in the middle of that square. And you're probably all going to beat me in doing this since you started before me, but we'll see. So those flaps, I'm making my flap be about 1/2 inch wide, so it's not a skinny little thing. It's 1/2 inch. And you can either cut it out with your scissors or with your X-Acto knife. Either one, it kind of doesn't matter. It is important that the I think I said a 2-inch slot. Well, yeah, that's fine. It's important that slot, the length of that slot and the length of the short tab are the same size here to begin with, and both, of course, located in the middle of that side, of whatever side it's on. And I guess you will need probably an X-Acto knife to cut the slot. My X-Acto knife has disappeared. That's weird. I've just, now there it is. So again, the slot is along the same line as a fold. So you have a fold with a slot in the middle of it. And then we have, on your other square, we have a fold with a tab sticking out of it. And of course, we haven't finished it yet. We've just gotten that far. And I'm actually going to draw in the other parts that we haven't done yet, so that I can just show it. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you're done. So maybe just, how are we doing? Are we doing okay?
Kind of slow on the process, but I'm
That's
working.
okay. That's okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure that we're getting there.
So just to be clear, we're making the flap, but not the entire box.
Yeah. So if actually, let's hold it this way. Yeah. So we're just making two squares, one that has a flap on it,
Uh-huh.
like that. And you'll see that I've drawn in the other part. You haven't done that yet. You just made the flap so it looks like this. And then the other one looks like this. It's just a square with a long flap. And in the middle of the flap, there's a slit or slot that is the same length as the tab that's on your other square. So you got two squares with two, each with a flap. One is short flap, one is the flap that goes the entire length.
Yeah. Okay. Working on it though, slowly.
Okay. All right, Jazzy. Can I see, Jazzy, since you've got one there, can I see what you've got? Oh, very nice. So you've actually put it together. So very good. Looks nice and clean. Yeah. So actually, if you want to go ahead and Jazzy, since and I'll do this with each of you, but Jazzy, there's no reason to wait, I guess. You can see where I've drawn in the other part. So on the one that has the short flap, the one that's in the middle, this one, cut the same width of your flap, which I think I said that mine was a 1/2 of an inch. And so if you have a 1/2 inch tab, then cut down into the piece where you see the solid lines on each side, cut in the same distance. So I've cut down, or I haven't yet, I've drawn the line, a 1/2 an inch down and a 1/2 an inch down. Do not cut across. So the dashed line is going to be a fold line. Okay, so you can go ahead and do that. And then the fold line, you're going to fold the resulting tab, you're going to fold it the opposite direction of the way you folded the top one. So it's going to fold the way I'm holding it right now. You can see the tab is folded away from you. So along that dashed line, it's going to fold towards you, the opposite direction. How are the rest of you doing? Okay, Alyssa, have you got yours cut out? I did it again, didn't I? No.
No, you see. Yeah, you're right.
Weird. Can I see what you've got?
Yeah. I couldn't find like thicker paper, so I just used line paper.
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's fine here. Okay, so you got two pieces and you got that tab cut out. And so then on the other one, this one, go ahead and cut the slot on the fold that's exactly the same width as this tab is. And since we've done it this way, one of the things you can do is put the one the tab one, you can put it on top of the other one if you want to see exactly where to mark the ends of the slot that you're about to cut. And Brianna and Grace, you're doing okay there?
I think.
Okay. Can I see where you're at?
Yeah. So I have this one. I just need to cut the slit part right here.
Okay.
And then,
Why don't you wait on the slot until you've cut the other one?
okay.
Yeah.
And then the other one, I'm just like, not like.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, so cut that part that you folded. Just cut that.
Even. Is that okay?
It's going to be okay because we're going to use that to mark where to cut the slot. That's why I said hold off on the slot.
Okay. So
Okay.
then.
So go ahead and cut that last little piece off that you've got folded down.
Okay.
I like the way you determine the square by folding it diagonally. Smart. And Grace, you're there?
I was a bit confused how you wanted us to do it, so I did this.
Oh, okay, that'll work.
Okay,
So-
I didn't
so
want
that-
to just scrap this. So
Yeah, so
I
what that
have
will
my
do is
scrap, and I have my
the opposite end. This will work just fine. Okay, and let's see, so that you really see it. If you since it's one sheet of paper, it's kind of like an we could make it like it's an actual box. So you're going to just, if you fold it 1, 2, 3 times in between there to create the other sides, so that when it comes around, you can actually put it in like you normally would. Okay. And the only thing that you have so that it does that is every other, so this side and this side need to be the same distance, right? Okay. We have success, and Jazzy has success. Allison, how about yours?
So far, so good. I'm just debating how I want to cut the
slot.
Because I don't have an X-Acto knife. My mom makes a point to be like, no X-Acto knives in the house. So I can't. No,
but Mom, I'm a graphic designer. I have to have I have to have one.
I've tried buying them before, and she's like, no.
Oh, no? Like, well, let's see.
I got scissors.
You got scissors. Scissors will work for us here.
Very roughly. Gotta be careful, but I got the basic. Like I did one at first, and I was just like, yeah, and then I cut it preemptively before I did this, and I was like, it's a massive hole.
Yeah, that's the only problem with the scissors. It'll make the slot bigger than it needs to be, but it's okay. Yeah. I think you'll get the idea. Grace, you're making the entire box. Tremendous. Love it. And I meant to bring, go up to school and get my other little models that I've made where you can make the closure come together in the middle of the box. And so you actually have two lids that come together in the middle, and it comes in the middle, and then actually you can fold out two little parts of that come up, and they're a little handle. I love that particular version of box. I made it originally as a mock-up to create a because it folds down inside and creates kind of a protective double wall. And so I made it to hold some glassware. It was for a company that they sold glassware. And I was trying to figure out how to make that happen, and it ended up it worked, and I really liked it. And so anyway, I still have one of the final prototypes, and then I have some other versions of it too. And I meant to go up to school and grab them so I could show you. And what I'll probably do is at some point I will actually remember, and I'll take pictures and I'll just put it on the assignment page. Is it going to work, Grace?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's fitting. Nice. Very nice. Alyssa, have you got it there?
Mm.
Yeah, so you were fitting it together. All right. So let me stop me here right now if everybody's not done, I guess. Okay, so I need to, so what I have, and I think the rest of you have already done this. So we have this part of the short flap, and then cutting in to what is in fact the side of the box, the same distance into the box that the tab is. So I'm doing that right now. And then I'm folding it back on itself. So I now have that, right? So again, if we look at the actual box, here's the actual lid, right, sitting there. That is the same as this piece of paper with the slot in it. That's that one. So if you want to hold that like it's the top of a box, and then it's folded down as if it were going into the box. And then this other piece with the short little tab, that's the lock. That one is the side of the box. And so imagine this going down inside of it here, and then the lock fitting up and into that slot. So I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do that. By the way, this is a typical Brett DeBoer demonstration full of fumbling around. Okay, so it's sitting in there. Okay, so what we end up with is we have the outside of it looks fairly clean, right? So it's locked in there. And then, of course, since we've done that, we can now peek and see what's going on inside. In the way that that's holding it together. Now, the modifications of this. If this is a lock on a box like the one I've been showing you, where we want to be able to easily open this and unlock it, then we need to do two more things. One is to make a little finger hole right here. So I'm just going to draw it. So I just made a half circle right there, which in fact is on this piece, right? It's the slot. So the slot just adds, let's see, where are we at? There, I think we can see it. So there's just that little thing there that allows your finger to get there and pull the lock out. So that's one addition. The second addition is on the little tab. you can, I'm going to do it two different ways. On one side, I'm going to round it off, and the other side, I'm going to do a straight angle. You would do the same thing on both sides, you know, but those are the two different ways it's done. So I'm either angle or rounding it off like on both sides, like I shown here, or I've angled it in like I've done on this side on both sides. So that will still make this work, but allow you to more easily unlock it and then lock it again. Now the reverse is true if you're using this tab to secure the paper back together into the form, but you don't want to open it there. So in other words, you're using it in place of glue. So if you're using it in place of glue, you don't put the thumb half circle on there. And on here, instead of angling or rounding them in, actually you wouldn't round it at all. Instead, you would angle it the opposite direction. Okay, and we can't do that now because we've already cut it, right? But it would, instead of this one right now is angled in, instead on that side, instead of an angling that way, we would angle it this way, the opposite way. In other words, so this top edge is wider than the slot that it's going into. So the slot remains the same width as it is down here, okay, or along the fold, either one. It's straight up at that point, but then it angles out from this edge to the end of the tab, okay? And because it's wider on the outside, it's hard for you to push it in there. You know, you got to play around with it. I usually use my X-Acto knife to help kind of force it in there, but force it in from one side and then the other to wiggle it in. Okay, and then once it's in, you can't get it out. Okay, and so then it's a true locking tab, and it can make a really clean edge, and you can use it both. We were talking on Grace's, for example, where she didn't like that line that was there that occurred in the middle of a face. So in this case, the way we're doing this, it comes together on an edge. And sometimes that if we want to hide the closure, then that's a way to do it. And of course, you can do both a combination of glue and the locking tab. One of the things that's usually hard about using the glue is, well, you folded the whole form up and it's hard to get your hand. Well, now I can't get my hand inside. I can't get anything inside to support the inner piece of paper so that it is up snugly against the other piece while the glue's drying. So potentially you could use the combination of both the lock tab and glue to secure it. Okay, does that make sense with all that business? All right, so I wanted us all to do that little bit of physically working with the form as a way of a technique that you might use, but on the other hand, you might not use that exact technique, but hopefully it will suggest some other things to you. Now I want to do one other thing that might suggest something to us. So if you take another piece of paper and just fold it, okay, so I just put a fold in it. And now I'm going to take a pair of scissors, and on the folded end, I'm just going to cut in, and in this case, I'm cutting in straight the same amount. Okay. So I've cut in, this is the folded side, like that. And I've cut in that way, the same distance at a right angle to the fold. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here, imagine that this folded piece of paper is an edge along any form. It could be a square box, it could be an angle, it could be any shaped thing, but it's along an edge, right? So now that part that I've cut in, I'm going to fold it reversed. So if we call that initial fold a mountain fold, I'm going to use some origami language here, that now it's a valley fold, and now I've created this little other space, okay, that's gone into that form. So I guess this could be a rounded form, you know, but it now has that in there. So if you think about this, there's all sorts of things you can do with that. It could be angled cuts. It could be cuts that are actually the top and bottom of letters. It could be, this could be one eye. There could be another fold over there, another eye, and you make a mask looking thing or a face looking thing. So there's, you can go pretty literal with it, or you can, or not. You can also go more than once. So let's do that particular thing. So now we got a valley fold, right? So let's open it up so we see the valley fold. So I'm seeing that little fold. Let's do it again. On the fold side, let's cut into it. Okay, same distance. And then reverse the direction. So it's back to being a mountain again. So now what I should end up with, if I can get it to go here. Okay, I'm folding that, and now I'm going to push the inner part back out. And once it's kind of like any version of origami, right? Once you kind of have to help it along first until it has some memory of the way you want it to go. And it's starting to. Okay, so I think we can see that there. Right? Okay, so hopefully that little technique will also give you some thoughts. Now, we looked at a little box the other day where here's a practical, simplified version of that very thing. Here's the corner of this box, and they've done a die cut on this when it was flat as just an oval, but the fold occurs through that oval. So now we have this little window, you know, to see the product, but it's also in a very, very, very basic, simple way altering this form. It's doing it for a practical reason, but it's a cut along a fold. And that's what it changes the form somewhat. So we can take that and run with it in a lot of different ways, right? So anyway, those are the two main techniques that I kind of wanted to throw out there. See if that is anything that you can make use of, or suggest some ways that you might bring the form that you're working with together, or give you some other things to try with the, with the paper. And then again on the assignment page, I put the basic box plan that makes this little guy, and of course you can change the sizes of those sides to make whatever size box you want. It's also, you see that it's out of an well, I didn't use the whole 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, but it ends up making only this tiny little thing. So we do have to be thinking about the overall size of paper to work with. And maybe the person that I talked the most about that with was Grace, and that you might look at rolled paper to get the dimension of your final piece the size you want it to be. and depending upon whether you want to use cheaper rolled paper to do that on earlier versions, that's fine. But on the other hand, you might just tape together some shorter pieces of paper to make these early versions. For next time, I would like to see a little more refined version of actual form. And I'd like you to then be able to articulate or say back to me how that form is interpreting your concept. Now, if that means that you have now decided to change your concept somewhat, that's going to be okay. But we want to be marrying the concept and the physical form together. We want them to be saying and reinforcing one another. Okay? All righty then. And maybe since the next time we see each other is Tuesday, maybe I should add one other thing for us to do. We need to start looking at a typeface that might also interpret your concept. Okay, what typefaces possibly could work here, knowing that we are going to have both display kind of information, a name. The name of it might be, instead of a product name, it might be the concept. Okay, it might be that. On the other hand, we also will have some other information that on a real box we might call the product information, this kind of stuff. On here, it might be a poem. It might be anything else. It might be lyrics from a song, but it's text type. So in other words, we're going to have little type and big type. And how do we work with that on the package? Then the last thing is that we are not going to have the type or image confined to one panel only. We are going to explore wrapping both words and image around the form. And the analogy here is more like wrapping paper that goes around edges. So we want to be thinking about that. But definitely have a typeface, or possibly two if you have a different one for the display type than the text type. That would be fine. But have some options. Okay. All righty. Maybe one more thing that's different from this. Those of you that are my advisees, then you can expect to see some kind of message from me, hopefully by this evening. My goal is that this evening, so that you can sign up for individual advising times. Okay? All right. If any of you have anything extra, please stay on. Otherwise, have a great weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday. Okay? Hey,
Hello.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. Yeah. Have you had a shot yet?
No, I have not.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you, oh no, because you couldn't come, you can't come on early, or, you have to come on later on Thursday. But Shelby was telling us at the beginning of class, her boyfriend actually is a vaccinator.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, so she of course has been able to get her first shot, and because he works for the county, and moves around, but then she can get her shot. And yeah, so I was lucky. I've been done with it now for a while, and my wife just got her second shot this earlier this week. Yeah, so we're getting there on that.
I heard there's some side effects after you get the shots. A lot of
It depends.
people.
I had no side effects, not a one.
Wow.
Yeah, not a one. Now, according to Shelby, it makes a difference whether you get the Moderna one or the Pfizer one.
Yeah.
So, and apparently the Moderna one is what's giving more side effects, but I don't know. I know friends that have had the Moderna one and had no side effects, and I have friends that had the Pfizer that had big time effects. So I don't think it's 100% according to that, but.
Well, you got lucky.
I got very lucky. I got very, very lucky for sure. Yeah, I was surprised because all I was hearing were all these horror stories. And one of our close friends is a nurse, and she got her second shot, of course, before me. And oh, she was really down for the count after the second shot. And I thought, oh no, you know, and I thought, so I wasn't looking forward to that, but I had no side effects, nothing. My arm wasn't even sore.
Huh.
Yeah. After the first one, the second day after the first one, then my arm was sore. But no more sore than any other.
Any other shot?
Right. Yep. But after the second shot, it wasn't even sore. Geez, did you give me a shot?
Oh, maybe you're just.
I don't know. It varies, right? It's not just that it affects men different than women. It doesn't seem to matter according to age. And I guess the only thing is because everybody's trying to figure, well, why do some people have a reaction, some not, right? And I guess the closest is, well, it's because of whether it's the Moderna one or the Pfizer one, but that isn't 100% true either. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I hope you guys get them very soon. It's happening, so that's all good.
Yep.
Yeah. Have your parents gotten it?
No, my mom actually though needs to talk to her doctor and see like if they recommend it or
Oh,
not.
really? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of her doctors recommended she get it, but also advised that she talk to her primary care
Mm.
physician to see like if that would like be working right now. But
Does she have something else that would make it a bad reason maybe to get it?
no, I think she was just a bit hesitant because of the
Oh.
cancer, and
Oh.
she's also
Oh. What did you say there?
she has cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. And so
Oh, dang, I shouldn't have started this conversation.
she's
I'm
also
sorry.
very kind
It's
of like she wants to see the side effects that people are getting first before she gets the shot. She wants to make sure no one turns into zombies and everyone's
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I don't think that they're turning into zombies. We don't have to worry
Yeah,
about that one.
it's been looking
And
good.
yeah,
So
and one of the things that I've tried to do because I have a number of students, of course, who happen to be Hispanic, and a number of their parents have been hesitant. And so when Dolores Huerta got her shot, did you know that? You know who Dolores Huerta is? The name is ringing a bell, but you're not sure.
yeah.
She she is an activist that was she and Cesar Chavez were for the farm workers.
Yes.
So okay, so they fought for equal rights for those folks. That was a primary thing, and that was a while ago. Well, Dolores is still alive and still very much an activist, and so she's been and she's not just kind of alive. She's a very active activist, and she's in her 90s.
Wow.
And so and so she actually President Biden just recognized her for something just a couple weeks ago. She was in the news again, and she's from Stockton in the in the Valley, and she go Valley, and she and then so she made it public and had it videoed when she got her shot. So I've been sharing that link to those students whose parents are perhaps hesitant, and hoping that will, kind of alleviate some of those fears or hesitations. Because she's an incredible woman and a good role model hero for all of us. But it would be somebody that they might then respect their opinion. So yeah. Well, how about your dad? Is he hesitant, or is he wants to take it, or what?
I I don't really know where his mindset is at right now with
Oh, okay.
Maxine, I think he wants to wait until it's like just one shot. You don't have to take 2 shots.
You know, I'm hearing that a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he's waiting for that, but
Uh-huh.
he's working from home, so
Uh-huh.
we're all at home.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's probably the safest way for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I just like talking to you. You might have a question for me that you're waiting to be able to ask.
I just had a quick question on the design of my box, if I can share
Absolutely.
you.
Sure.
So, this is kind
Mm.
of my almost finalized that I'm very happy with. So this would be the outer box, and then these would be the subsequent layers inside.
Yes.
I want it to have a very like seamless feel.
Okay.
And then I do have text wrap around it, and it's like a little saying.
Oh, you did what I was going to suggest.
When you mentioned that, I was like, I got excited because I'm like, yes, that's what I was thinking.
Did we talk about this already? About the lines being words? Or did you? Or,
No, I
I didn't
don't.
think we did either. I was going when it was zoomed out. I couldn't tell that the lines were from words. I couldn't
Yeah,
tell that,
that's the
and
battle
I
line.
was going to say that, and you did it already. That's great. Absolutely. Yes. 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 Yes.
It just says repression is the medicine of choice for my depression, and that's just wrapped around this whole thing.
Hmm.
Um,
Is it different words on each box?
I thought about it, if it should be a little darker as you get to the middle, but for now, they all do say the same thing.
Okay. Well, I'm going to suggest that they are different.
Okay.
Okay, because this process. We also talked a little. I think I can't remember if you were there when we were talking about it. So sorry if I'm repeating, but the experience of opening the box.
Mm-hmm.
So yours is very much experiential because, you know, I open a box and I have another box and I have another box and I have another box. So what is the effect of doing that as opposed to just opening one box? So we want to take full advantage and exploit the fact that there are several boxes. And so one of those ways would be, well, yes, we have words on each one. So how are those words different is something to think about. And they should reinforce the how you want to interpret this whole thing. Now, and so another aspect of that is, at the moment, I'm seeing them all as black. So can color, a change in color, also add to, you know, this experience of going deeper into exploring this concept?
I tried the color. I didn't like the colors.
It might be the color combinations. It doesn't necessarily mean they're completely different colors.
I did like a gradient from this pink color to black.
Yeah.
And it muddied the colors.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, it could be as simple as it's a 50% gray to 100% black. It could be that. See what I mean? So what we're doing is looking for each of these variables, color being one of those visual variables, that we can, again, exploit to the fullest, that along with our choice of typeface, along with the actual words and what they say, along with the fact that we've got 4 boxes, not just one, you know, along with this very clean look, that it's geometric, all of those things, so that they reinforce one another and we get a real powerful understanding of the concept that you're talking about as a result.
And I had one more question. So instead of having an obvious keyhole and lock, I have it like hidden.
I
And
was
this is
gonna,
like
yeah.
this is,
Yes.
this
Love
is
it.
the
Yes.
pattern, but it like it's flush against the outside of the box, but when you like put the key in, it kind of recesses in,
Hmm.
then turns to unlock an inner mechanism that unhooks the top from the bottom.
So you're going to have an actual mechanism key kind of thing. Is that what you're thinking? Did I hear that
That
right?
was what I was hoping, and I have an idea in my head, but I don't know how plausible it is with paper.
It is plausible.
Probably.
Yeah, yeah, it is plausible. That obviously the paper that we're talking about needs to be a little stiffer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you aren't restricted to paper. It's just that because we have to be doing this virtually, you know, I can't really encourage people to explore other materials that I can't supply, right? So, but on the other hand, you are not restricted to only paper.
Mm.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. But actually, no, I'm not going to leave it at that. I'm going to come back to, if it is paper, it just needs to be stiffer paper. And so what does that need to be? Does it need to be like, I'm going to use the word cardboard here once and then not use it anymore. So we want to use the term paperboard. Okay. And so um, let's see, well, today we talked about like cardstock as a heavier weighted paper. And then after cardstock weight paper, we do start talking more like paperboard. That is stiffer, more substantial. And the key, I believe here, is finding the weight that allows you to still fold cleanly and also do this kind of thing. So, but the other option is that the lock part and key part, those components are the ones that are thicker, heavier, and the box itself, not so much. I have to tell you a little story here. So when I was a freshman in college, it was very in the dorm rooms to everybody put their beds up on stilts. Okay, so everybody found wood 2x4s, made their own stilts that went up in the air, and you had your beds up there. How we were able to get away with this, I have no clue, because some people were horrible builders and their beds were wobbling all over the place. But at any rate, we did that with the idea that then you had more space in, you know, our tiny dorm rooms down below, and you'd put little couches and everything down below. It was cool. And you slept up in the air. The problem with that, and why I'm telling you the story, is that you got up there and now you couldn't turn the lights off because the light switch was down by the door, and you needed the light on to find your way up into the bed, right? So I rigged up this thing where it was a piece of paper. It was the back of a notebook, actually, is what it was. And of, you know, like ruled paper, the back of that pad, and cut a hole in it that allowed me to put, I bent this hanger so it would fit in a slot behind the board just enough, and then I bent it so it would go around the light switch. And then it came out this wire and then bent up and bent over so I could pull it from the bed and it would turn the light switch off and on.
Yep.
So the point here is that it was a very thin sandwich that allowed that simple mechanism to work. And that may, the reason I'm telling you is that may give you some thoughts We're not talking about another something. I don't think that you have to fold to make the lock. I think it could be simply, it's another piece of, maybe it's a little thin pieces of, or even folded back on itself. It's going to be inside. We can't see it anyway. That gives a little space that will allow the mechanism of a lock to be in there and swivel and open and close or something. Is that enough to make sense?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, I think it would be a matter of now, okay, let's do a couple little drawings and see how that thing would work. But I guess the point I'm trying to make on this one is that the heavier paper might only be in the lock and key. It doesn't necessarily have to be the whole box. I don't think that you could fold it out of the same paper that the box is. I don't think that's possible. It would have to be attached.
Yeah.
And in a sense, it would create a little bit of extra thickness in that spot, where that occurs, so it doesn't interfere with the next inner size, the box that's inside of it, so that you can still get it in and out. So with that in mind, I have one more thought for you. As much as I was excited about the way that you showed today of it closing and fitting together, another option is that it doesn't close that way, but it closes together. I'm going to call it like a clamshell.
Yep.
Yeah, on the edge. So if my hands are doing this and where my fingers are coming together are a vertical edge of the box. I don't know. Okay, so you can, yeah, and of course, I really like that. Oh, you know what? Because of that creates extra space, doesn't it?
It does. I was gonna say.
Yeah, you're good to go. You
Yeah.
have that extra thickness in there, or dead space where the lock, it could account for the lock. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of making like an incision on one of these and then maybe placing a hook.
You're right.
Behind.
Right. Yeah. Yep. That's what I was thinking too. And that's why I was doing that pivoting thing. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. All that should work. I really like your concept. I like the way that you're interpreting it. So my main suggestion is just look at every aspect of it, including color, that can enhance the whole thing. And I guess the other part was the changing of the words.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
You can even think of, well, do the words change not only in what they say, but there's a whole bunch of them on the outside. Does it work its way down to just 2 or 3 words on the inner one? And does it work from the same pattern all the way through, or does that pattern, those words, because they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, now we've got maybe one word that wraps around the whole box, but it's grown from the pattern that we first see on the outside. There's a lot of ways that you can do that. I guess the key word that might give you some things to think about would be, it's evolving. There's a sequence that's implied here, right? So sequentially, which direction are we going? Are we going, the way I think you talked about it was, it's darker inside. So it's more, I don't know if that means more menacing or more whatever, on the inside. And then as we move to the outer shell, the outer skin, yeah, it's peeling away the onion skin. It's all of that. And so how you can indicate that, because you have nested boxes, I think that's a really good thing to play with.
Okay. And I think the mood board helped a lot.
Oh, good.
That was really fun to do. And I also thought of like more subcomponents to repression. Like I think madness, I didn't think of this before, but I think madness kind of goes really well with repression, especially like once you get onto the inside.
Yeah.
It's like just filled with all these negative thoughts and all these repressed emotions, and you just go mad. I think that'd be fun to portray.
Well, as human beings, we're on a rather thin line between sanity and insanity all the time anyway, right?
That's what I tell everyone.
We're on a thin line. We're not that far removed as much as we'd like to think so. We're not.
Yep. Yeah. I keep telling everyone. You think killers
So,
are like
yeah, so
so
explore,
different.
explore that. Absolutely. See what happens with that. And again, I think use all the variables.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then just for clarification, what should we have for next class?
Oh, I kind of fumbled through that, didn't I? So you have already kind of gone to a more refined version. So I think for you, you just keep pushing that. The things that we've just talked about now, let's see some versions of that. See what that results in.
Okay.
It might also mean you've worked out what a lock mechanism might be. It might also mean the color, how you make use of that. For everyone, the typeface or faces, but you've already started down that road, so you should go to the next stage of that. And because yours is an evolutionary thing or a sequential kind of thing, how do you push the concept of sequence as it pertains to your concept? You know, so I think that's what it means for you for next time.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to. All right, that's all the questions that I had.
Okay. Well, have a good lunch and a good
Bye.
weekend.
Thank
And-
you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.